Hello there! Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world. And so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well. I'm doing great, thank you very much. And you go and spoil yourself because you deserve it. Go and get something lovely to drink because I'm about to share with you a lovely story tonight. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell and the thumbs up. And let's get started with tonight's story. 15 minutes before it happens, Chantel Kramer slips into the deliciously warm water of her bath. The temperature is as close to perfect as you can possibly get. And for perfection in Chantel's book, the water has to be almost scorching. She has filled the bath with jasmine-scented bath oil, which she's been using for years, especially during the winter months of the year, as the sumptuously extravagant product that is manufactured in Italy makes her skin so soft and smooth. Chantel does find that her skin has an unfortunate tendency to become quite dry, but having used the jasmine oil, it has transformed its condition. She has lit candles all over the bathroom. There must be over 15 of them altogether, and the flickering light washes the bathroom in a soft romantic glow. But she deserves this, does she not? It's not every day that you get to spoil yourself like this. Ostensibly without the teenagers around, she can afford to luxuriate in the bath for a long time, while thoroughly enjoying a glass of her favourite Cabernet Sauvignon. After her bath, she will then retire to bed and read a book, and before long she'll drift off into a deep sleep. The bathroom mirror has completely misted over from the rising steam and condensation, so you can practically write your name in the mist. Chantel's husband is thousands of miles away from home, on a business trip as usual. She's lost track of where he goes on all his business trips, for it's very hard to keep up with his hectic schedule. Her husband Russell travels all over North America, and is away quite regularly. He has a job as a trip advisor, which means he visits hotels, venues, and bed and breakfasts all around America, and writes up about them, giving them a rating, so that holiday makers can decide whether they'd want to stay at such a place. His visits are always impromptu, so that he's able to give a true evaluation of his experience there. By all accounts, his job does mean he may spend days away from home. Chantel does miss Russell, of course, when he's not around, but she's well used to him being away for extended periods of time like this. But she is reasonably independent by nature, so is not bothered by his lengthy absences. In her humble experience, absence really does make the heart grow fonder, for she never takes her husband for granted when he actually is around. Chantel's two teenagers, Robert 15 and Elsa 13, are spending the weekend with the Ramsey teenagers. And while Chantel loves her teenagers very much, it's nice to have the house to herself for a change, and it's so lovely and quiet without them around. She's very glad she doesn't have to listen to Robert's loud, blaring music, that occasionally is so noisy and disruptive, so much so that you can barely hear yourself think. For Robert appears to be obsessed with his music, as so many teenagers are, and you certainly know when he's home, for the house vibrates from the drumming booms of the rock music he tends to listen to. Then there is her daughter Elsa. He is more reticent by nature, and quite a complicated person. She seems to live every day with her ear glued to her cell phone, as if the fixture and fitting is actually attached to her, like a parasitic twin that she simply cannot get rid of. The number of times Chantel has told her daughter to leave her cell phone alone for a while and enjoy being social for a change, well, are too numerous to count, and such advice has fallen on deaf ears, for this generation doesn't appear to know how to survive without technology, which is a dreadful shame. It's like this generation appears to be completely addicted to noise of every kind. Chantel's Great Dane Big Boy is her only companion in the house this evening, and she likes it that way. Big Boy considers himself to be Chantel's dog, and was given to Chantel when he was a puppy, and he took a shine to her at once, from the moment he arrived in the house, with a big blue bow around his neck, and a card from her husband Russell saying, "When I'm not around, you have a male companion to look after you." Big Boy seemed to know he was Chantel's dog from the get-go, and dutifully follows her around wherever she goes. Chantal has grown very attached to her dog. Her teenagers are away for the weekend, so she's really going to enjoy the luxury of this peaceful tranquility, of what usually is a very noisy, disruptive house that sometimes could be likened to a bus station, with teenagers popping in and out of the house at will, at all hours of the day and night. So this time alone is indeed a rare treat. And even if someone were to knock on the front door, one of the kids' friends perhaps, Chantal would not answer it. She'd simply pretend not to be at home. She doesn't want to be disturbed this evening. Big Boy is a huge Great Dane. He's all legs and takes up a great deal of space like a miniature pony. He's now currently contentedly lying across the bathroom floor, with his long legs stretched out like a daddy-long-legged spider. Chantal can hear the comforting sounds of his deep snores that always make her smile to herself. Big Boy is like a person that suffers from narcolepsy, as he can fall asleep at the drop of a hat, any time and anywhere, without any trouble at all. Chantal glances down at Big Boy fondly and smiles. As usual, he's sleeping with one ear perked right up, as if he's listening for any sounds that may finally grab his attention and swing him straight out of his sleep. Although Chantal would have to admit he's pretty useless as a guard dog. His gentle nature means he loves everyone he meets. He doesn't seem to even realize that some human beings may actually have insidious agendas and should not be welcomed into their home. He's the kind of dog that would probably cluelessly invite a burglar into your house to rob you blind, as he unequivocally thinks everybody is probably his best friend. Big Boy did try to befriend a skunk once, which didn't go too well for the dog, or for the Kramer family as it happens, as Big Boy ended up being sprayed by the creature, and the stench, even after numerous washes with dog shampoo, never seemed to get out of Big Boy's coat. So yes, he does get into some doggy scrapes from time to time, but running into a skunk, well, let's just say that was not one of his better days. Chantal is very contentedly listening to some soft classical music she managed to find on the radio, and the music is so relaxing, it's helping her to fall asleep. She feels like drifting off and following in Big Boy's example. Some things dogs actually do get right. The hot water is immensely soothing, and every aching muscle in her body is being massaged by its inviting warmth, rather like aquatherapy. It had been a long, insufferable day, especially having to drive 3 hours out of her way, to drop her teenagers off, to stay with the Ramseys, who are childhood friends of her children. The Ramseys have a son called Harvey, who is Robert's age, and a daughter called Olivia, who is Elsa's age, which has always been very convenient, because the Ramseys practically lived in the Kramer house when the children were growing up, as they lived right next door to the Kramers, in the heart of the Virginian countryside. But then sadly they moved away, which was rather unfortunate for the Kramers. But despite the distance, the teenagers are still very much involved in each other's lives, because some things predictably never do change. This is a perfectly beautiful moment for Chantal, being submerged in her bath like this, soaking in all the warm water like a hungry sponge. And to have the house to herself, well, it doesn't get better than that. She's going to make the most of this me time. Chantal slips down into the hot fragrance water, sprinkled with the oil droplets from the jasmine oil. She submerges herself in its depth until it rises up to her chin, while the back of her head is sinking into the water, so that tentacles of her dark hair tumble around her like a mermaid. And while her head is ducked under the water, she doesn't even hear the classical music that is playing on the radio. Chantal not only tolerates very hot temperatures, but she enjoys them too, which is one of the quintessential reasons that she has never shared a bath with her husband Russell, something he complained about tirelessly over the years, for he believes taking a bath with his wife would actually be a nice thing to do from time to time. But sadly for the couple, that will never happen. Russell would have to become a salamander, and there is just no chance of that. "What is wrong with you, Chantal?" he'd often complain. "Your bath water is so damn hot. How can I ever be expected to get into that? If I were to bath with you, I'd turn into a lobster." Chantal would laugh and tell her husband that he was a shrinking violet because he was afraid of the heat. As far as Chantal was concerned, All Russell's baths were horribly tepid and extremely uninviting. She had never been able to comprehend how anybody could enjoy bathing in lukewarm water like that. Chantelle smiles to herself rather decadently, as she thinks of how Russell would react right now, if he was to see her indulging herself like this so extravagantly, while drinking a glass of very expensive Cabernet Sauvignon. She's wallowing in the bath like a hippo in its watering hole in Africa, although Chantelle, being so slim and slight, doesn't exactly compare to the sizable creature. She intends to soak in this bath until the temperature finally drops, and then she'll be forced out. Russell always teases her and tells her that she was probably Cleopatra in a previous life, because she enjoys bathing so much. But soaking tired muscles in hot water, well, there isn't anything better in the entire world than that. It had been one of those mindlessly busy days when you barely get a chance to draw breath. She had been rushing around with a list of 101 things that needed to be done. She had done all kinds of shopping, a gym workout, and even driven the kids to the Ramsay house, which meant she'd been on her feet for far too long. When she returned home in the early evening, she had ordered a sizable Chinese takeaway, which meant that she could enjoy the leftovers the following morning. She had tucked into chicken chow mein, sticky fried rice, and sweet and sour pork, and it was all absolutely delicious, and the leftovers were now residing in the refrigerator. It really was convenient to have a Chinese takeaway service accessible to her. The one great thing about Russell being away is that Chantelle can make generous inroads into the large bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon that is perched on the tile counter next to the sink and under the large mirror that takes up half the bathroom wall. Chantelle is already on her third glass of wine. She can't believe she's drunken so much already. She carefully balances the glass of wine on the tiled surface at the end of the bath, and she's enjoying drinking it, which is encouraging her to feel somewhat relaxed. The wine bottle is coated in condensation and looks to be nearly finished. She's beginning to feel slightly inebriated, as would be expected after drinking 3 glasses of wine in one go. She closes her eyes and thinks of nothing. She empties her mind of all responsibilities. Those things just fade away, for nothing is important right now. Nothing matters at all, and she has no immediate worries to concern herself with. The only thing that Chantelle cares about right now is enveloping herself in the delicious warmth of her bath. The rising steam smells so very good, with all the fragrance jasmine notes that would lightly uplift the most depressed of people. She sits up very suddenly with a start when she hears a strange booming sound. She doesn't know where it comes from, but it's certainly got her attention. Big Boy is sitting up. He is also focused on the sound, for he has heard it too, but he loses interest in the noise very quickly, and his head soon flops back on his outstretched legs, and he closes his eyes, for he's familiar with the bumping sounds that come from the attic, that have become worse of late, so much so that even Chantelle's son Robert, who you'd think is as deaf as a dodo, given he listens to so much loud booming music, has complained about the strange rumblings that go on in the attic. Big Boy used to bark quite abruptly when such noises could be heard in the house, but now they have become as natural to him as hearing the grandfather clock ticking away in the hall. I guess you get used to strange sounds if you hear them often enough. Chantelle's mother, who stayed at the house a couple of weeks ago, complained bitterly about the bizarre noises coming from the attic, and said she believed that there were rats scurrying around in there, although she did reassure Chantelle that old houses were inclined to make noises, rather like an old person groaning about their aching bones. "This house is very old," Chantelle, she had said. "I mean, it's going on 300 years, isn't it? I'm sure it's got a rich, vibrant history. Don't get me wrong, dear. I do love old houses, and yours is very beautiful. But I have to remind you they require a great deal of maintenance, and my guess is you could have some dodgy pipes that need looking at. And if I were you, I would investigate the problem before it gets way too out of hand. I've never understood, dear, why you were so keen to buy such an old place where everything creaks and groans. How you sleep at night, God only knows." It was Chantelle's daughter, Ella, who suggested the family had a ghost that resided in the attic "I've heard footsteps above my head going on in the attic at night," she had insisted. "I'm not joking, Mum. I've heard them always at night, and it's so scary. Ghosts like dark places, don't they? It would make sense if we had a ghost in the attic." She had shuddered at the very thought, her eyes growing as wide as saucers. For Ella was easily spooked, and growing up had been terrified of the dark. "I feel as if we're being watched all the time. My guess is that this house is definitely haunted. All the problems started after we renovated the kitchen. Maybe one of the previous owners died in this house and doesn't want us here anymore. That's why he's stomping up and down the floorboards in the attic at night. He wants to scare us away from this house. He wants us to sell up so he can have the place to himself. You hear stories about that all the time, about properties that are haunted, that is." Chantelle had chuckled at her daughter's far-fetched, preposterous suggestions. "There are no such things as ghosts, love. And if what you say is true, don't you think that ghost would have scared us off a long time ago? I may remind you, we've lived in this house for many years without any untoward activity going on. So why is it all happening now?" "You always look for a rational explanation, love. Either it's pipes like my mother suggests, or it could be rats. And I'm a firm believer that we have a rat problem. Honestly, dear, you do watch way too much nonsense on YouTube. What it's filling your head with, God only knows. I'm quite sure, as I keep saying, there's a perfectly rational explanation as to why the attic is so noisy at night. And I would put my money on the fact that our problem is a rat one." "You couldn't pay me to go up in the attic," Ella had said, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "Well, it's understandable, love. Rats are not everybody's cup of tea, are they? They're certainly not mine. I can't stand the things." "It's not rats, Mum. I'm not worried about rats. They're the least of our problems. It's the ghost I'm worrying about. I'm telling you, there are noises in our roof at night, and they don't come from rats. I hear the footsteps, and somebody is stomping around in the attic wearing boots. And I'm not exaggerating, Mum. I wish you'd believe me." Chantelle's mother had looked at Chantelle with wide eyes. "I had no idea this was going on. Goodness gracious me. Maybe it is a ghost that Ella's been hearing in the attic. She could be right about that, you know. Don't dismiss it out of hand. Old houses are notorious for being haunted. Maybe when you refurbished the kitchen, you stirred up some paranormal activity. It wouldn't be the first time that has happened. I will remind you, you did break down a couple of walls to extend the kitchen. Maybe it didn't go down terribly well with your resident ghost." "Not you two, Mum," Chantelle had sighed in exasperation. "This house may be old, but I assure you it is not haunted. And a few refurbishments in my kitchen are hardly going to awaken the sleeping dead. Honestly, look at you and Ella. You're as bad as each other. Ella takes after you, Mum. I'd like to remind you, Mum, that we've lived in this house for years and never had a problem until now. And I don't believe the problem we have is paranormal." "Well then, my dear, you're extremely naive, if you don't mind my saying so," Chantelle's mother had said. "You were always cynical, just like your father. You never believed in anything you couldn't physically see, even as a child. While all the other children believed in Father Christmas, you did not. You were always challenging me on the subject. I'm with Ella on this one, I'm afraid. You've either got rats, squeaking pipes, or a ghost. And I think that Ella makes a very good point, especially if she's hearing boots stomping around above her head at night. Then, in my opinion, you've got a ghost. There is no other explanation, is there?" Chantelle sighs as she stretches her legs out in the bath, like a contented cat luxuriating on a sun lounger. She lifts up her feet to examine her toes, and then she is reminded that she desperately needs a manicure. Her old nail varnish has chipped off, and her feet look a tad unsightly. She reflects over the rumblings in the attic that the family has been hearing, and wonders what to do about it. for the noises are becoming increasingly annoying. But she knows her daughter's suggestion of a ghost haunting the attic is a preposterous one. She had spoken to Russell about the rat problem. Russell had promised to lay down some traps in the attic, but he's so busy these days he hasn't got around to doing it, and Chantelle doesn't fancy going up into the attic herself to take a look. She's never been good with heights, and besides it's unsightly and dusty up in the attic. The Kramer family stores everything they don't want up in the attic. Boxes of old photographs, children's toys from when the kids were much younger, children's books from those early years, boxes of clothes that the kids have outgrown, and really should have been taken to a charity shop, pieces of old furniture that are slightly broken and no longer have much use, a couple of old paintings that Chantelle can't bear because they look so outdated and far too out of fashion to be hanging on her walls, Christmas decorations that come down from the attic once a year, school exercise books containing the work her children did in their early years of life when they were little. Then there are all those pictures they drew for Chantelle in crayon when they were in kindergarten, and she had not had the heart to throw any of those away. But now they'd become dust collectors and were probably only encouraging the rat problem. Russell told Chantelle a long time ago not to hang on to all these mementos, and she had failed to listen to him. But now she was seriously beginning to regret it. I really should do something about those boxes in the attic, she thinks, closing her eyes rather warily. Some of the stuff really does have to be discarded. If I don't watch myself, I might become a hoarder, and I can't allow that to happen. She can hear Big Boy getting up from his lying down position on the bathroom floor, almost as if something has got his attention. It's not like him to leave the bathroom like this. She watches him exiting the bathroom door with his tail wagging, as if someone is there. His behaviour is a tad unorthodox. She was sure she'd heard a faint whisper, but she must have been mistaken about that. She closes her eyes rather warily, and then suddenly she has this profound sense that she is not alone. A feeling as if someone is watching her has overcome her, and it's such an unsettling feeling that she quickly opens her eyes for a very brief second. She's sure she's seen an obscure shadow standing in the bathroom doorway, watching her. She must be dreaming. Of course she's dreaming. Either that, or the wine that she had drunk had gone straight to her head, and is making her see things that are not there. Too much wine has a habit of doing that to you. She closes her eyes again, only because she really believes she is dreaming, and is caught up in some kind of illusion. She opens her eyes again to confirm this, and the humanoid shadow she thought she had seen moments before has all but gone. But in this harrowing realization, she realizes that she may actually have seen something standing there, and it makes her body jolt in the water, as if she's all but had an electric shock. So much so that her lethargy is thrust away so violently, so she's now wide awake. Some of the bathwater spills out onto the bathroom floor, leaving a sizable puddle there. She nervously climbs out of the bath, grabbing a warm fluffy towel from the toweling rail. She wraps it gingerly around her body, placing a small towel around her hair. Her face is so pink from the heat and condensation of the bathwater. The whole room is filled with steam, so it's very hard to distinguish anything clearly. Chantelle calls after Big Boy, but he fails to respond to her. Big Boy! Big Boy, come here now! Big Boy! Big Boy! But there is no response, but she is sure she can hear a distant barking, as if he's a long way off in the kitchen. But then again, what would he be doing there? It's not like him to wander off like this and abandon Chantelle. Chantelle's heart is filling with panic. She hurriedly rushes into her bedroom and puts on her tracksuit at lightning speed. She quickly grabs a fire poker from the fireplace in her bedroom that she can use as a makeshift weapon of self-defense. She was certain she'd seen a dark shadow standing in the doorway of her bathroom. She had seen the eyes, the nose, the face, the look of those eyes staring at her. The man! She was sure it was a man. He was there 1 minute, gone the next. Or did she actually imagine it? She can't be sure. She's beginning to regret that she drank so much. Chantel's heart begins to race in her chest so loudly that it's the only sound that she can hear in her ears. Someone's in the house. She knows it, and she's all alone. She's very afraid. She should call the police at once. But she still wonders if she imagines seeing that shadow standing there in the bathroom doorway, looking at her. Supposing it had just been a trick of the light. Or was it because she drank way too much that now she's actually hallucinating? Russell always warned her never to drink too much wine, as it wasn't good for her. She did think drinking 3 glasses of wine was going overboard. She rather suspects the wine has gone straight to her head. If I call the police and no one is in my house, I'm going to look like a prize idiot, aren't I? One of those dreadfully neurotic women that flinches at any noise, who the police are likely going to think is as mad as a March hare. Do I want to embarrass myself like this by calling them? She cautiously enters one room after another, but as she frantically searches the house, no one is there, and she wonders if she's losing her mind. Did she imagine the shadow in the bathroom, she wonders? Finally, she reaches the kitchen, and is surprised to see that the kitchen door is closed. Big Boy has been locked up in the kitchen, and is scratching the door as he tries desperately to get out. When Chantel opens the door, which is never normally closed like this, he is delighted to see her, as if they've been parted from each other for years and years. He gives Chantel a rambunctious welcome, jumping up on her so ebulliently, paws balancing on her chest, and his welcome is so effusive she nearly loses her balance and very nearly topples over. "Down, Big Boy, down!" She stares down at him in confusion. "How did you get into the kitchen, Big Boy? Who closed the door behind you?" Big Boy looks adoringly into her eyes and does little to fill in the blanks of how he got into the kitchen. Did a gust of wind possibly slam the door shut behind him? Chantel wonders. Maybe Big Boy heard a noise, ran into the kitchen, and the door slammed behind him. It's quite a windy night after all, but no windows are open, so where would the wind come from? Big Boy was with her in the bathroom only moments before, but someone must have put him in the kitchen. But who? Oh my God, Chantel thinks. It's not my imagination. Someone is in the house. But all the doors are locked. The windows are closed. How could anyone be in the house? It's not possible. Chantel checks all the rooms again and again. She's expecting someone to step out of the shadows, wearing a balaclava on his head and carrying a baton in his hand, and in any second he whacks her on the head so she falls down and wakes up later to find the whole house has been cleaned out. "I know you're here," she calls out nervously, trying to appear confident, but the tremble in her voice is very discernible. "Just so you know, I've called the police, and they're on their way," she warns. "They'll be here in any second," she lies. The house remains still and unresponsive, as if her words have fallen on deaf ears. The only noise she can hear are the moans from the howling wind outside. Big Boy is wagging his tail as he follows her devotedly around the house. If someone was here, Big Boy would have bounded towards them enthusiastically, but he is diligently staying by her side, as he always does so faithfully. He appears nonchalant and relaxed. But how did he get locked up in the kitchen? None of this makes any sense at all. Chantel briefly enters the bathroom, where the steam is still rising from the hot water, and the bathroom smells of jasmine. She sees her clothes lying in a messy puddle on the floor, and everything is exactly as it should be. But written on the steam on her mirror, she reads the words, "Hi." She stares at the words in horror. Oh my God! Someone is in the house! She's not alone. Someone is here, and they're watching her. Jackie did not write that message on the bathroom mirror herself. Or did she? Her head feels all foggy and muddled. She's drunk far too much. Her head is actually throbbing. She charges into her bedroom with Big Boy at her side. She locks the door behind her, wondering if she's completely losing her mind. She possibly is. She'd have a better grip on reality if she hadn't drunk so much. She knows she's a bit tiddly. She's still clinging on to the fire poker for dear life, as if it's the only thing that could preserve her life at this moment, especially if she's ambushed by a dangerous thug who might be lying in wait for her somewhere in her house. Why does the feeling of being watched never abate? Why won't it go away? Why does she feel haunted? Chantal quickly checks under her bed, in her walk-in wardrobe, and behind the curtains, to see if anyone could be hiding there, and her heart rhythm slows down significantly, because no one is in her bedroom, which is a monumental relief to her. It doesn't change the fact that someone with a Machiavellian, nefarious intent could be in the house. Just to be sure, she grabs her cell phone and hurriedly dials 911 before she can change her mind about this. Chantal holds her breath on the line as she hears, "911!" The operator answers, "How can I help you?" Chantal drops her voice to a whisper. "I think someone may possibly be in my house, but I'm not entirely sure about it. I've gone around the house and I've checked everything out, but no one appears to be there. But I did think I saw someone watching me while I was taking a bath. They wrote high in the steam on my bathroom mirror, and they locked my dog Big Boy in the kitchen. I'm very scared, very discomposed. I don't know what's going on." "Where are you, ma'am?" "I'm in my bedroom with my Great Dane, Big Boy. As I was saying, I've checked my bedroom to make sure no one is hiding out under my bed or in my walk-in closet. But I assure you no one is in my bedroom. But someone might still be in the house. But I checked everything. It's locked. All the windows are closed. I'm afraid I have to admit I've had 3 glasses of wine tonight, but I'm not drunk. A little tiddly, perhaps. And I'm very confused. I don't know what's going on here." "Ma'am, stay with me online until someone gets over to your house. We'll get the police over to check that everything is fine. But just calm down. I'm sure you've got nothing to worry about." Before long, 2 police officers arrive at the house, and Chantal is reassured by their presence. They check the inside and the outside of her property thoroughly, commenting that the howling winds outside are making a substantial noise, and that could potentially be the noise that Chantal had possibly heard. "Look, ma'am, there's quite a wind blowing outside tonight, so any thumping sounds you heard may, of course, be weather-related. From what we can see, no one is around and about," said one of the officers, looking at her kindly. "It doesn't look like you've had any kind of a break-in. Windows are all closed. Doors are locked. Are you sure you saw someone standing in the doorway of your bathroom? Could you possibly have imagined it? Perhaps, as you say, you had 3 glasses of wine, and you say you feel tiddly. Could it be the drink that suggested to you that someone was, looking at you in the bath?" "Well, it's true, I did have 3 glasses of wine this evening, and I admit I am a little tiddly, and I was sleepy in the bath. But how do you explain the writing I saw on the mirror, saying hi, and that my dog Big Boy was locked up in the kitchen? I never put him there. He was in the bathroom with me, then he went away, and I found him, locked up in the kitchen. How can that be the drink talking?" "I can't explain those things to you, ma'am, and they are, of course, a concern to us. But as far as I can see, we have not found any sign of someone attempting to break into your property. Are you all alone tonight?" asked the officer, looking slightly concerned. "I just don't like the thought of you being alone, ma'am. I can see you're in quite the state, and we don't like leaving you in this condition." "Yes, I'm afraid I am alone in the house tonight, and I do feel decidedly vulnerable. I'm usually quite an independent woman, and I'm not afraid of being alone. But tonight I feel really shaken up. My husband is away on business, you see, and my 2 teenagers are staying with friends. So what do you think I should do?" The officer rubbed his moustache reflectively. "Is there anyone you can call, ma'am, so you don't have to be alone like this? I think it would be a good idea if you called a friend of yours, perhaps, to stay over with you tonight. It's always best to err on the side of caution when you're feeling a little unnerved about something." "You're right, officer. I don't fancy being on my own tonight. Not after everything that's happened. It's all so incredibly bizarre. I can't explain any of it. I could phone my friend Fee. She could come over. She lives alone. She recently got divorced from her husband, so she won't mind popping over. She's a 10-minute drive away. I know she'd agree to stay with me overnight if I asked her. She's a very good friend. Well, it might be a good idea to do just that, ma'am. Give her a call. I don't like leaving you alone. We'll wait for your friend to arrive, and then we'll leave you. But give us a call if anything else strange happens tonight. We've checked the house very, very carefully. There's been no sign of a break-in, so I feel reasonably confident that everything is exactly as it should be. But you just need to be vigilant tonight. Keep your ears attentive and your eyes open at all times. Chantelle calls her friend Fee, telling her to come over to the house at once. The police are with me right now, Fee. We're waiting for you. You need to come over to my house right away. I need you to spend the night with me. It's very important. What's going on, Chantelle? Fee asks. I can't tell you now, Fee. It's too long-winded. I just need you to come around now and bring your PJs. You're going to be spending the night with me. That's all you need to know right now. No sweat. I'll be with you in 2 ticks. The good news is I'm wearing my pyjamas, so I'm ready to go. Fee wastes no time in getting to Chantelle's house. She must have driven like a race car driver, for her car arrives at Chantelle's home in under 10 minutes. Chantelle feels such relief to see her best friend. At least she won't have to spend the night alone in the house. Only moments before these unsettling events, she was so happy to be alone. But now she doesn't feel safe at all, because there is a distinct possibility that somebody was in the house tonight. Whether they're still here, she is very doubtful, because the police affirmed there was no sign of anyone. But she was certain she'd seen a figure in the bathroom doorway, staring at her. But through the rising steam, the ambiguous figure was so vague, and maybe it really was a figment of her imagination. So there we are. That is the end of part 1 of our story. Part 2 is tomorrow night. I look forward to you joining me then. Until next time, goodbye and good night.